Hey, friends, welcome to another episode of Not Your Mama's podcast. The title of this episode is Making Sense of Obstacles That Plague Women's Life Path. In this episode, we are speaking with Denise, who is a sought after international empowerment life coach who fully believes in the power of awareness, self care, knowledge, and times. Denise has a gift and is able to combine her 31 year of award winning teaching and firsthand experience as a mom of three incredibly well established children. Denise takes pride in being a lifelong learner and educator and is widely known to captivate audiences with her knowledge, practicality, and expertise in understanding and making sense of challenges and obstacles that plague women's life path. Denise, I am so excited to have you on. It's such an honor. Can you give the audience a little bit more about your background and how you got to where you are today?
Absolutely. And it's a privilege to be here. So thank you so much for having this conversation today. As you shared, I was an educator and I did that for 31 years. I ended up in a number of roles during my tenure. And I was in the elementaries panel. And at the end, I retired out as a school principal 12, 13 years. And in between, being a classroom teacher and the principal role, I also was a behavior resource teacher. And I think in that role, I learned so much about myself and my ability to connect and support people in a way I never even knew was possible. And I think a lot of the skill sets that I gathered through that process helped me to land where I am today. When I was finished in retirement, I knew that I wasn't ready to just sit on the couch, watch TV, and do my knitting. Although I do that, I knew there was more for me to fill my time with and to support people because I have that in my heart. I've always been somebody who loves to help others, and it just segued through the process of me watching through the years of supporting families and supporting colleagues and teachers in my roles. I found that women in particular always felt guilty about trying to create and carve time out for themselves. And it broke my heart. So I thought, you know what? This is something that I need to help moms around the globe do. Find a way to not drag themselves down and feel guilty for taking time that is needed. And one of the mantras that I've created is I want women, moms, to do something for themselves every single day for you, by you, because of you. And that really has helped shift people's thinking, and it almost lightens that guilt where they start to realize when they do that, the empowerment that happens is second to none. It's just been incredible to watch moms grow. And when they change, their world around them changes, right? Their energy changes, and everybody else around them just has a benefit of that without them even doing anything other than looking after themselves in new ways.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I was definitely a mom with mom guilt. Never really carved out time for myself. When I became a mom for the first time, it knocked me off my feet in terms of like such a life change for the better. And I'm so happy and thankful, but it knocked me off my feet. And then I was like, who am I? Like, I was a stay-at-home mom and I just needed more for myself. I used to be out there working all the time to like staying home and taking care of like, my son and stuff, which was great. But like, I've always felt like I needed more. And then it was like, oh, I feel bad like going and working out, even though he's sleeping. I got to be right here. And that's one of the reasons why I started the podcast is because I needed something for myself,
Mm.
and it gives me that little extra, like I feel like I'm working, I feel like I'm going out there and I'm making a difference is what I want. And I don't want people to feel alone because sometimes, mom burnout, like you can feel alone in that. And you're like, oh my God, are the other moms struggling like me?
Yeah.
And I'm sure everyone is, but we only can see our perspective in our life and see life through our eyes, and we can't feel anyone's else's emotions or understand what's going on in their brain. So,
Yeah.
um, it's a good reminder, like we do need to take care of ourselves, because when we're better, we show up better for our
Mhm.
husbands, for our friends, for our kids, grandparents. And life is all about perspective. And if you're feeling good, the world's going to feel good.
Absolutely.
So I'm so happy to have you on. I think it's important. So, kind of diving into a little bit more about the topics. So, what about communication? How can communication help with, the plague of the mom guilt?
Well, it's interesting. Such a great question, because what I do find is that we play head games with ourselves, and a lot of the communication that we have within our own heads is faulty, right? So what you were saying, I'm feeling guilty. I should be doing this, but we do so much chatter inside of our own heads, and we stop ourselves in our own tracks without even realizing it, right? So I think pivotal piece of communication is how you talk about yourself to yourself, and how often you do that, right? The brain is always on fire. It always works. And even when we're sleeping, right? We're like, no, I have to. And then you start to have this conversation with yourself in your own mind about what you should and you shouldn't do, and why you shouldn't do it. It's like releasing those components and actually looking at what is going well in my life. What can I do to continue to grow what's working really well, and start communicating more positively to
Mhm.
your own self through that process. When you start to make those inner changes, you can also reflect the same way outside when you're communicating with others, and starting to even recognize how you speak, when you speak, what you say when you're speaking. If you know you are stressed out, then it's really good for us to take a step back, take that breath, and go, is this the time or the place to have that conversation right here and right now? Is it imperative it has to happen now? If the answer is no, you can give yourself permission to leave it for a little bit until the opportunity is right for a
Mhm.
certain conversation to happen, right?
No, and I think it's important. Self-talk is probably the number one thing, because we can be our own bullies, our own self-critics, and just our mind, like you said, there's like we could be talking to you, but we're thinking about dinner and we're thinking about how we messed up over here and all these other things. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a woman thing, but we definitely have about like 50 conversations going on in our brain at the same time.
It's so true. And it's very important to tune into those conversations. What are you actually saying to yourself? Are you complimenting yourself? So I would encourage anybody who's listening to this going, oh, yeah, that's me talking about this, thinking over there. And oh, yeah, yesterday this happened. And all those things, all those file folders are open and spinning at the same time. I want you to slow it down. And I would love for you to actually grab on to, was that a positive thought or a negative thought? Was that a positive comment about myself or a negative? If it was
Mhm.
negative, what do I need to do to change it to a positive? And it can be a very simple change in word, right? I work a lot with moms, and we talk about words and the power of your words, whether silent or out loud. And one of the things that comes up frequently is I have to. Instead, we can flip that and change have to get. I get to.
Yeah.
And that can shift energy almost immediately, right?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the words that we say are so important. It's like I was speaking to someone else, and you don't want to say, like, I am enough, because enough really, I forget what the exact definition was, but it's not whole,
Yeah.
basically. Like,
Yeah.
you want to say something else besides I'm not enough. So we really got to be careful with the words, because you think you're saying something that's good, but really it's not. So have and
Absolutely.
like get to, it really shifts the energy.
100%. 100%. And then you lighten your load, right?
Mhm.
You just automatically take that restrictive energy away, and you get to move, you can move forward without being like, get my foot out of the quicksand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to be quick on our feet, got to feel light.
Mm. Exactly.
We've got a lot to
Exactly.
do. We got a lot of juggling. So, so how can like us moms, tap into our emotions and understand like our triggers?
So triggers are really important. And I find the best way that works is for
Mm-hmm.
us to tune into, not just cognitively, because when we do it just through our thought process, we limit ourselves. Because you shared at the very beginning, it's only through the eyes of our own that we're seeing it. So this is a great opportunity to, with what you do, the work you're doing is so powerful because you're providing an opportunity for people to add to their portfolio of strategy, skills, techniques,
Exactly.
whatever, right?
Mhm.
So, with that, it's so important to feel what's going on inside of your body. When you are triggered, your body will do something. And we don't tune into that. We automatically just start to respond, react actually, when we're triggered. So you might start to get a headache, a tension headache. You might, your jaw might clench.
Mhm.
You might start sweating. Your heart might be palpitating faster, right? Tune into your body. You might have that pit in your stomach. Tune into that, get that signal, and that's your initial hello, you're being triggered. Don't go there. Not right now. Nobody's going to benefit.
Yeah.
So that's when you take that breath and you get back, right? Even if you have to literally move physically, just say, not right now. I'll talk to you in a bit, right? That's
Yeah.
fair. And I think it's so important for us as moms to be able to take that breath and say, this isn't a good time right now. I'll come back to you, right? Give yourself time and space wherever possible. So when you're tuning in and recognizing that your body is being stimulated in that trigger response,
Mhm.
that's when you tune in and go, okay, there's something bigger here, and I won't be being fair to myself and to the other person. So give yourself time and space, and yeah, just say, I just need a minute. I'll think about that and I'll get back to you, right?
Yeah. But what about invisible stressors? So what's the difference between that and an invisible stressor?
Absolutely. So an invisible stressor can come from the other person as well as yourself. So it could be something that happens, and it's, how they call the straw that broke the camel's back, and you're like, where did that come from? Like, we were just having a conversation, and the next thing you know, you get up and stormed away. That would have been an invisible stressor that was inside that other person's body, let's say,
Okay.
that it just came out of nowhere, and you're like, whoa, what did I do? And then you go into all that, oh, I've said something right. You do into that negative chatter. So the
Okay.
invisible stressors are not the stressors that are in front of us at the time, at the moment, right? And they're the things that creep up, and it creeps up on others as well. It's not just ourselves. So sometimes those invisible stressors are on both parties' side. And then it's like, we aren't even taught, we are not communicating. This is like, you are not listening, and it just becomes a bit of a mess, right? Mm-hmm.
Totally. Okay. So that
Yeah.
makes sense. Hey, friends, I hope you are enjoying this week's episode of Not Your Mama's podcast. This podcast would not be possible if it wasn't for the support of you, my wonderful community. To support your mama's podcast, please click the support link right down below, and you can donate just as little as 99 cents. Also, follow me in the Shop Like to Know It app, where you can follow me with all my exclusive content, all the way from baby products I love, fashion and style, and everything in between. Now, let's get back to the episode. So, what about like active listening?
Oh, if there's anything that I can say that is one of the most valuable skills that any person can have, is active listening. And active listening is exactly what it says, but it's not as easy to do, because your first goal is to truly understand what the other person is saying. So in order to do that, you have to put away all distractions. So because we are such a tech savvy world, I strongly recommend people shut off their phones,
Yeah.
put it away, whatever, and be in the moment, be in the conversation. So for us as moms, with our minds doing everything, I got to get the groceries, and I got to be listening to you. That's probably not the time to be super active listening. But what is best to do is when you're hearing the other person, what you need to do in order to do proper active listening is you repeat what you believe you heard them say. And what you say is basically, so what I heard you say was blah, 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 blah. Did I miss anything? Because in order for us to really have a conversation that is meaningful and brings people together in a healthy relationship, what you have to do is to be able to really understand what it is they're saying, because we tend to listen to respond, not to understand.
Yeah. No, it
Right?
makes sense. I mean, my husband's always like, "You're not listening." I'm like, "I'm trying. I got everyone yelling at me. Everyone needs something." I'm like, "Give me a second so I could just give you my 100% attention and hear what you have to say." Like,
Yeah.
there's always a battle, someone yelling for my attention for me to listen.
Yeah, exactly. And so even with that, the fact that they're knowing that you're not listening, what can they do to support you so that you can listen, right?
Usually they just yell at me that I'm not
Yeah.
get mad. Like it's all me. So
Well, and isn't that the case, right? That happens a lot. It's
yeah.
mom, you're not getting it. You're not listening, right? It's like, hold up,
Yeah.
hold up. Why is this my fault, right? Maybe it's in the way you're trying to tell me. Maybe it's in the timing. Is this the right time for me to have to listen to that when you see that I'm trying to drive and keep everybody safe, right?
Exactly,
Like,
right?
so there's different responsibilities in that, right? And so that's where we get to come back and say, but just a minute, I am not able to listen right now, as you can see. So can you park that and let's talk about it in 10 minutes when we're home? Let's talk about it. So you get to have the power instead of being dumped on,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, no, that's great. No, I love that alternative. Um, so I have 4 questions I ask all my first time guests. And my first question to you is who and what inspires you?
My children inspire me, to be quite frank with you. All of our children are very different and very motivated and have done exceptionally well. And it's just so motivating for me. And I bring that through a lot in the work that I do as well. Just because each of them have gone through their own struggles, and to see them be successful and come out of them the way they have, it just, I mean, I could tear up. So I'm not gonna say
Yeah,
much
no,
more,
I
but
know one of my things like I
it's
just
been
hope I raise good humans, like I mean
right.
everyone's gonna have their struggles and their stuff, but it's like I just hope I can, guide them and I always worry about that stuff. But I know
Yeah,
I'm gonna have great kids, because I got a great mom.
yeah,
So
right. There you go.
so
Right.
the second question is what is something you wished you knew when you were younger?
I wish that I had known that no matter what happens, be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else just to be popular, just to, feel like you're going to be a better person because oh, look at what they've got. Um, yeah, I would say that in order to make sure that I live my life for me, by me, because of me. Yeah.
Exactly. And not everyone wants the same desires and things like that. And if people are judgmental of what you're doing, that's on them, not you.
Mm-hmm.
So just a reminder, if you're afraid to like be your true authentic self, rip that off and just do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're gonna find your tribe.
Mm-hmm.
So my third question is, what's the essential part of your daily routine?
Um, I would say the essential part of my daily routine is connection. connection to myself and connection to others. And it happens in a variety of ways. I'm very much about being in nature and being outdoors. I find nature is a beautifully balanced ecosystem that I love being grounded in. And we're out in Vancouver right now visiting our son, and it's just been amazing. Just
Beautiful
beauty everywhere. Oh, just beautiful. Oh, and we're from Ontario, and it's beautiful there too, but it's just so vastly different. But I would say connection with self first, which is something that I didn't used to do, but the process of learning continues to happen. And so I get to do that now, which is phenomenal. And that's why I do what I do, to help others see the importance of connecting with yourself and understanding yourself as a human, in order to do what you can do for yourself first so that others benefit just naturally, right?
Yeah, perfect. And then my last question is the best advice you've ever received.
I would say that's a great question, because there's so many people who have given such valuable advice. I would say the best piece of advice that I have received is that it's actually more than okay to be you. The world needs you to be you. Period.
No, I
Right?
love that. It's so
Yeah,
true, like
yeah,
you were meant for a reason.
yeah.
So I like
Everybody's here for a purpose. Yep. Yep.
all right, Denise. So before we say bye, do you have any last words for our audience today?
My goal is for anybody who's listening to ensure that they look after themselves first in whatever way is most, I'm not going to say reasonable, most applicable for you. Not looking around what is everybody else doing to do self-care, which is to me very different than love of self. So I really hope that people who are listening really dig into what's one thing I can do for myself, by myself, because of myself every single day. And very tiny steps, even if it's 2 minutes sitting in quiet, do it.
Love it. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening to another episode of Not Your Mama's podcast. All of Denise's links are down below in the show notes. Don't be shy. Go say hi. And I hope to see you all in the next one. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Not Your Mama's podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next one.